What would you do if just as you were about to sign the biggest deal of your life, you realized every smile in the room was really just a mask, and none of them wanted you there as an equal? Would you still sign? The sky above the Bexley estate in East Hampton was a gray, listless sheet, a perfect mirror for what was coming. The kind of weather that makes you feel like the world's holding its breath. A sleek black SUV rolled up the gravel driveway, scattering fine white dust against the sculpted hedges and marble lions out front. If ever a place screamed money, it was here. Inside that SUV sat Dr. Maya Ellison, founder and CEO of NextSight Systems. At 41, Maya had built her tech company from scratch, fueled by the memory of her mother, lost to lupus when Maya was just 10, and her aunt's relentless determination. Today, she was about to finalize a merger that would put NextSight at the center of the global stage, a $500 million partnership with the Bexley family's legacy conglomerate. She adjusted the lapel of her gray blazer, tailored but unshowy. Maya didn't dress for spectacle. She dressed for war, and today would prove just how necessary that armor was. "Ms. Ellison, we've arrived," said her driver, stepping out and opening her door. The air snapped cold as she stepped out. As she approached the ornate double doors, they opened as if by magic. Standing there was Charles Bexley, the patriarch, silver-haired, tall, polished, the kind of smile you find on magazine covers and, Maya thought, the kind that hides more than it shows. "Maya, at last," he boomed, extending both hands. "We're thrilled to welcome you." She shook his hand, noting the faint tightening of his grip when she didn't bow or wilt. "Thank you, Mr. Bexley," Maya replied, steady. "It's a pleasure to finally meet in person." "Charles, please, we're practically partners now." He smiled wider. Behind him, his wife Serena watched, a glass of something pale in her hand, eyes sharp above her perfect smile. "Welcome to Bexley House," she said smoothly. "I hope your flight wasn't too tiring." Maya's lips curled into a diplomatic smile. "Thank you for inviting me." Inside, the house was almost aggressively elegant. White marble everywhere. Glass walls, not a single speck of dust or warmth. A Latina housekeeper in a crisp black uniform took Maya's overnight bag and vanished silently. Charles pointed out art and architecture as they walked, but Maya's mind was elsewhere. On numbers, on strategy, on a lifetime of rooms where she'd been the only black woman in a sea of power. Serena led Maya up a winding staircase. "We've put you in the East Wing for privacy." Maya paused. "I thought the other guests were in the West Wing." Serena's smile never faltered. "Yes, but we thought you'd appreciate some quiet before tomorrow's events." It was a dance Maya knew too well, separation masked as courtesy. She nodded and stepped into her guest suite, pristine, beige, expensive, soulless. She put her phone on the dresser and received a text from her CFO, Adina. "Any red flags?" Maya typed back, "Too early to say. Feels off." She watched the ocean from the vast window. No photos, no personality, not a place made for living, just for showing off. A soft knock. The Bexley's assistant, Lucas, too young and too pale for his oversized suit, looked at his feet as he announced, "Dinner at 7 sharp. The family would like you to meet a few board members. And there's a stylist downstairs if you'd like suggestions." Maya's eyebrow arched. "I'll manage." "Thank you." When the time came, Maya wore a navy sheath dress, natural curls pulled back, simple gold studs. She didn't dress for them. She dressed for herself. Downstairs, the energy was brittle and bright. Candlelight reflected in crystal. The long table, set for 20, gleamed under the weight of expectation. At the head, Charles Bexley and Serena. Around them, old money, men in suits, women in pearls, sons in loafers without socks. Maya's seat, conspicuously, pointedly, was halfway down the table. Polite applause as she was introduced. A few smiles. Thin, fleeting. The questions started, cloaked as small talk but sharp as knives. "So Maya, Stanford? That's impressive. Good for you. What made you want to start a company in such a, competitive space?" A younger man across the table, slick hair and the smirk of someone who'd never been told no, leaned in. "Charles says you're the AI genius. So is it true what they say about tech founders? All passion, but sometimes a little volatile? Maya didn't flinch. Would you ask me that if I were a 45-year-old white guy in a Patagonia vest? He blinked, then chuckled. No need to be so sensitive. Just saying what people think. She locked eyes with him, calm as a stone. And maybe you should think harder. Maya excused herself from the table without drama, but inside the guest bathroom, she finally let out a slow, controlled breath. Her phone buzzed. Another message from Adina. You always said, we don't beg for tables, we build our own. Remember that? Maya stared at her reflection, strong jaw, steady gaze, armor unbroken. A knock, Serena. Is everything all right? Maya met her gaze in the mirror. Just needed a moment. Serena hesitated. Gregory can be direct. Don't take it to heart. It's not just Gregory, Maya said, voice low. It's the table, the seating, the questions, the reminders. Serena's mouth tightened. This deal is important, Maya nodded, to both of us. But I don't sell out who I am, not even for $500 million. She closed the door gently, her mind racing. She'd come for a merger. Now she was planning an escape. Morning came with the sound of ocean waves breaking gently along the gray, empty shore outside the Bexley estate. Maya had barely slept. She'd spent most of the night sitting in the cold light of her guest room, mind replaying every word, every look, every compliment from last night's dinner. She could almost feel the weight of the chandelier pressing down on her, as if it too wanted to remind her she didn't quite belong. At 6 a.m. she finally rose, pulled on black slacks and a cream blouse, simple, sharp, deliberate, and made herself a coffee from the machine in the hallway. The house was quiet. Downstairs, she caught sight of a few staffers moving quickly, quietly, their eyes never quite meeting hers. Maya wondered, not for the first time, how many of them were called by their first names by the family, and how many were just the help. Her phone chimed, a message from Adina, her CFO. You okay? You sound off. Do you need me to fly in? Maya started to type no, then stopped, deleting it. She typed, maybe. Stand by. I might need backup sooner than I thought. Breakfast was a formal affair. Elegant fruit platters, eggs, 3 types of smoked salmon. Maya was the last to enter. Serena was already seated, deep in conversation with a shareholder named Carter, an old man with a voice like gravel and opinions to match. As Maya sat, she caught snippets. If we're investing this kind of capital, we need real assurances. These young founders, so ambitious but sometimes impulsive. Charles greeted Maya with another of his welcome to the club grins. Big day today, Maya. Board meeting at 10, walk the grounds with a few of the other partners after. Then we'll have the closing brunch tomorrow with press. I trust you're ready? I always am, Maya replied, matching his composure, refusing to let the subtext sting. As they finished eating, Serena leaned over, lowering her voice just enough to be intimate, but not quite kind. I hope the East Wing was comfortable. Some guests find it too quiet. It's perfect for thinking, Maya replied, holding her gaze a little too long. I value quiet. Helps me make the right decisions. A flicker of annoyance crossed Serena's face, but she covered it with a smile. The rest of the morning unfolded like a performance. Maya was paraded through the mansion, the wine cellar, the art gallery. We're especially proud of our 19th century oils. The library, first editions, all of them. None of it moved her. She had spent years working in windowless offices, coding with nothing but vending machine coffee and the hum of a desktop fan to keep her company. Marble floors and museum pieces didn't impress her. But what did sting, what felt like a slap, was the constant, quiet way the Bexleys tried to shrink her. At every turn, they introduced her as the promising young founder, never the CEO of a company valued at nearly $1 billion. She was a novelty, an accessory, never a peer. During a garden tour, Charles introduced Maya to a group of shareholders. This is Dr. Maya Ellison. She's brought us a whole new world of ideas. A real disruptor, you could say. We're lucky to have her. A tall man in a navy suit, a hedge fund partner from the way he talked, extended his hand. Very pleased to meet you, doctor. May I ask, How do you plan to keep up with the competition? It's a tough market for your kind of company. Maya's jaw tightened, but she answered levelly. With better algorithms, deeper partnerships, and a willingness to do the work. That's how we got here, and that's how we'll stay on top. He smiled, but his eyes slid away unconvinced. She'd seen that look 100 times, the look that said, let's see how long you last. Back inside, as Maya walked down a corridor lined with family portraits, generations of white faces staring out from gilded frames, she wondered if her face would ever be allowed in a place like this, no matter how many records she broke. A sudden feeling of defiance welled up. Why did she want this deal? Was it really for her company? Or just to prove she could sit at their table and not flinch? Her thoughts were interrupted by Serena, who appeared at her side, smiling too brightly. Do you have a moment, Maya? There's someone I want you to meet. She led Maya to a smaller salon, where Gregory, the Bexley's middle son, lounged with a couple of board members. Gregory was everything the stereotype promised. Wealthy, untouchable, born to win without effort. He grinned as Maya entered. Dr. Ellison, he called, waving a glass of whiskey. Sit, please. I wanted to talk about leadership, how you keep your people in line, given, well, the culture you came from. Maya stiffened. What do you mean? Gregory's smile was a razor. You know, tech's a cutthroat world. I just think sometimes founders with a, let's say, unique background can be too attached to the idea of changing things, rather than playing by the rules. Dad worries about that sort of volatility. It makes investors nervous. A hush fell over the group. The air felt electric. For a moment, Maya considered lashing out, calling him out, making a scene. Instead, she looked Gregory dead in the eye. Volatility isn't a trait. It's a judgment, one usually made by people who've never had to fight for their seat at the table. Gregory's smirk slipped. The older board member tried to lighten the mood, but Maya had already made her decision. She excused herself, walking quickly out of the room, heart pounding. She needed air, space, clarity. She found herself out on a stone terrace, cold wind lashing her face, the sea roaring in the distance. She gripped the railing, breath steaming in the morning air. Her phone buzzed again. Adina. I'm getting on a plane. Text me the address. I'll be there by noon. Maya's thumbs trembled as she replied, Come, I need you here. By midday, Maya had retreated to her suite. She opened her laptop, scanned her email, dozens of messages from investors, staff, press, all expecting an announcement, all eager for her to sign. But her gut twisted every time she thought about putting her name beside the Bexley brand. A knock on her door. It was Lucas, the assistant, holding a garment bag. Mrs. Bexley asked me to bring you options for tonight's shareholder brunch. She thought you might need something brighter. Stand out, but not too much, she said. Maya took the bag. Tell her thank you, but I have what I need. Lucas nodded, then hesitated. Miss Ellison, He stopped, searching for words. I just wanted to say, I know it's not my place, but my mom always said, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away, even if no one understands at first. Maya felt a lump in her throat. For a second, she saw herself at 14, helping her aunt carry laundry up 3 flights of stairs, wondering if there was a place in the world where she could just be. She closed the door gently, opened her laptop, and stared at a blank email. Subject: termination of merger discussions. Her fingers hovered above the keys, heart pounding. Another knock, this time Adina. She had come straight from the airport, hair mussed, eyes tired, but full of fire. You're really considering walking away, she asked. Maya nodded, voice low. I have to. They want the product, not the person. They want the innovation, but not the hands that built it. If we sign, we'll always be the guest, never the host. Adina squeezed her shoulder. Then let's call it. For the first time since she'd arrived, Maya smiled. Small but real. She hit save on the draft. Then she looked out the window, watching as a storm began to roll in from the sea, the sky darkening like a warning. Tonight, everything would change. Sunday morning dawned, harsh and bright. The storm had passed, leaving the Bexley estate washed clean, but inside tension simmered. The air felt electric, like every word might set off a chain reaction. Maya barely slept, but as she dressed, black slacks, crisp white blouse, a single gold ring, she felt a sense of clarity she hadn't known in years. This wasn't just business. This was a reckoning, and she would not let anyone write her story for her. She sat at the edge of the bed, her laptop open to the unsent email. Subject: termination of merger discussions. Message: after careful consideration, NextSight Systems will not proceed with the proposed partnership with the Bexley Group. We value integrity above all else. Our culture is not for sale. For a moment, she hesitated. What would it cost to walk away from $500 million? What would her team say, her board, her investors? But then she remembered Gregory's smirk, Serena's cold kindness, the way Charles introduced her like a bright accessory instead of a peer. She remembered the face of the housekeeper who had taken her bag, and Lucas's words, "Sometimes the bravest thing is to walk away." With one breath, she pressed send. The screen blinked, and Maya felt the weight leave her shoulders. Not relief exactly, but a fierce, unbreakable sense of self-respect. Minutes later, her phone rang. It was Charles. "Maya," he said, his voice tight, "we need to discuss this before you make a public statement. You're making a mistake." "I've already made the right decision, Charles," Maya replied, her voice calm, steady as the tide. "We're done." He tried to reason, to threaten, to cajole. "Do you realize how this looks? You'll be painted as emotional, difficult. No one in our circle will work with you again." Maya almost laughed. "If standing up for myself and my company is emotional, then so be it. I won't sell us out for the comfort of your circle. Goodbye, Charles." She hung up and turned to Adina, who had listened silently, jaw clenched. "You sure about this?" her friend asked. Maya nodded. "More than anything." Adina grinned, fire in her eyes. "Let's go show them how a real CEO walks away." At noon, reporters began arriving at the small community center Maya had chosen for her announcement. Not the ornate halls of Bexley House, but a humble, sunlit space where people gathered to build, not to flaunt. Inside, Adina handled the press with poise, while Maya stood by a window, watching as the crowd swelled. It wasn't just business reporters. There were women's magazines, tech blogs, even a few local students with iPhones and notebooks, eager for a quote. Maya stepped onto the small stage. The hum of voices stilled. She looked around. No script, no teleprompter, just a stack of handwritten note cards and the certainty in her bones. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice steady, filling the room. "I'll keep this brief, because clarity, like integrity, doesn't need a lot of words." Cameras clicked. A hush fell, so complete she could hear her own breath. "Last night, after deep consideration, I made the decision to withdraw NextSight Systems from the proposed merger with the Bexley Group. This decision isn't about money. It isn't about legal complications. It's about values, culture, respect." Her gaze swept the crowd, some faces confused, some startled, some already nodding. "We build our company not just on technology, but on the belief that dignity matters as much as data, that the culture of a company is just as important as its profits." Over the last 48 hours, I learned something crucial. Some tables were never meant for people like me to sit at as equals. They want your brilliance, but not your leadership. Your results, but not your voice. A ripple ran through the crowd. Phones flashed, pens scratched furiously. I say to every founder, every leader, every woman, every person who's ever been asked to shrink in rooms they earned, never trade your values for a seat at the table. If they don't respect your presence, show them the power of your absence. A single hand clapped in the back, then more, then all at once a storm of applause. Reporters shouted questions. "Maya, what did they say? Aren't you afraid for your company? Will you look for another deal?" She held up her hand, smiled, unshaken. "We'll answer all that in time, but today isn't about them. Today is about us, about what it means to build something that can't be bought, can't be bent. NextSight will keep building on our terms with partners who see us for who we are." As she stepped off stage, the internet lit up. Within minutes, hashtags trended. Number 1, We build our own. Number one, not for sale. Number one, stand with Maya. Clips of her speech went viral. Women and men in boardrooms and classrooms replayed her words, finding their own courage. Maya's inbox flooded with messages from strangers. Thank you for showing me it's okay to walk away. You didn't just protect your company, you gave us permission to protect ourselves. Meanwhile, at the Bexley estate, chaos reigned. Charles tried to spin the news, but no PR statement could drown out the truth. Investors grew uneasy. Whispers started about the Bexley's reputation, their treatment of women, of outsiders. Within a week, sponsors dropped from their charity events. One board member quietly resigned. The empire that had always assumed it could absorb whatever it touched suddenly looked vulnerable. At NextSight headquarters, the energy was electric. Employees wore homemade t-shirts. We build, we don't beg. Maya didn't ask for them, but she wore one under her blazer anyway. Adina walked into Maya's office waving a folder. 5 new offers, she said. From real partners. No more games. No more ghosts in marble mansions. Maya smiled, the first true smile in days. We're not just surviving, she said softly. We're setting the terms now. That night, as the city lights sparkled outside her window, Maya sat at her desk, breathing deep, letting the silence settle. Not the empty, cold quiet of the Bexley estate, but the deep, satisfying silence of knowing you did what was right. Her phone buzzed, a message from a young founder she'd never met. Thank you for proving we don't have to shrink. We can build our own tables. Maya's eyes prickled. She replied, build big, build loud. The world is watching. As she leaned back, a wave of peace and power washed over her. She hadn't just protected her company. She had changed the game, opened a door for countless others. Sometimes the greatest value you bring to a room is knowing when to walk out. And this time, the world followed her lead.